Hello, hello, hello. Is there anybody out there? Is this Facebook thing working tonight? Or is it not? Okay, maybe it's not working. 1 second. Okay, somebody's liked it, therefore it must be showing. Hi Nicole, how are you doing? Is everybody enjoying this warm spell that we've got at the moment? Okay, so I'm just going to start off. We've got a few stencils with me. Now I don't know about anybody else, but I tend to use stencils for making backgrounds, but there's so much more that you can do with them. I will tonight be using these brushes with them, just because I find that you get quite a nice coverage, and because these stencils that I've got tonight are quite thick, a brush gets in easier than perhaps what a blending tool will do. So just to show you for the moment on here, I'm going to use one that's still dirty. Which one did I use? That one. So when I'm using my stencils, I tend to have a sheet of kitchen roll handy. And a water sprayer that has just fallen off, so I just need to lean over and get that. Hi Carol. So yeah, you can see this is well used. It's just a water sprayer. I can't remember where I got this one from, but the good thing is it has a switch here, so if you push it that way you can then depress it and it will spray. If you put it up and twist it, no matter what you do, you can't push it, so you can transport it easily in your craft bags. Saves your work getting wrecked. Now what I find, and I'm just going to use a random piece of card for this. I've seen people who, now if you want to do this, this is perfectly fine. You can use the edges of your stencil as an edge to your work. If you're going to do that, and if it's quite warm and your hands get a bit clammy, you can tape your oh dear, stencil in place. So just whack it on. Now, if I was using this and I wanted the edge on it, I would make sure I cut my card to the correct size. And you'll get that. Now, you'll see from that, there's some lighter bits and there's some darker bits, depending on how heavy you use your brush and if you go over it more than once. Okay. Which is great, I like that. But if I'm doing a page layout or a scrapbook page, or even just making papers to use in other projects, it's a bit too regimented. So I will use it, and I'll keep it off the edge, and I'll just do sections of it like that. And then I can do a section there. And I find that better when it blends in and out than that. But it does depend on the project that you're doing. Some are great like that, some I want the full pattern on. It really does depend. Sorry, I'm going to keep drinking water tonight because it's like a sauna in my craft room, unfortunately. So that's just your basic blending. What you can also do, and I'm going to use a different stencil for this, is swap this up. There it is. That one. So I'm going with these two. I'm going to put my stencil that way just because it's easier for the area that I'm working on. Evening Alison, evening Carol, evening Nicole. Oh, Facebook is, yeah, I think it's throwing a toddler tantrum at the moment. I've been on a few so-called meetings or meets on Facebook today. Yeah, it's thrown us out of a lot of them. It's apparently they are doing an update, so watch this space. So sometimes when I've done a section like that, I'll then go in straight away with another colour, but not quite blend them. They just go up to each other, so that will just give you, I don't know if that shows very well, where you've got the blue and the pinky orange, it'll just give it, it gives you the blue at one side, so that gives quite a nice effect on there like that. Another thing that I quite like doing is, whoops, a bit straight, I'm going to do it this way. So put your colour down, and then ever so slightly, if you line the pattern up, you'll put my head straight over it then. You line the pattern up like that, and then just slightly drag it off, so you've now got the white showing. You can then get a contrasting, coordinating colour and go over the top. So when you do that, you'll get your blue showing around the edge, you'll get some white spaces in between, probably would have been better with a darker pink around the side, and then the blend in the middle. So I don't know if that shows, just hold that up, then you can see it a little bit better. So you can get quite some fun effects with that. One thing that I really like doing, and I don't know if any of you are aware, Vicky Booton, who is one of the big designers who did work for American Crafts but has now gone over to 49 and Market. She did a cruise in July from Southampton and then did some workshops in Birmingham, and I was lucky enough to go on one of the workshops, and this is something that I used to do years ago, and if I'm being honest, when you can, somebody might agree with me, when you're crafting, you'll do the latest thing, and then things that you've done for a while kind of fall off to the back. And it reminded me when she did it to do this technique. So plenty of the blue ink on there. Just going to get my paper towel out so I don't get it everywhere. Okay, so I'm just going to spray water all over the stencil, and then if you flick it over, you can put it straight down. Now when you put it straight down like that, that's a bit big, pop your kitchen roll on the top. Somebody once said to me, do you use anything special? No. Not sure if this one or the next one, it's Aldi's Best. So when you do that, you will see some of the ink will bleed through, and that will just pick it up. But then when you remove it, you're never going to get, definitely not now, you're never going to get a perfect image, because that's not how it works. When you pick your stencil up, don't drop it. But as you can see, you then get the reverse of the stencil. But it's never perfect. Like here, it's all bled to each other, but here it's not all gone in. Now, I may get another print off that, because you've paid for your ink, so you might as well get the most of it. So what I'm going to do, a bit more water, and this time, rather than putting it down completely, I'm just going to bend the stencil and roll the stencil onto it like that, so you're just getting a partial print. So there, you've got your partial print. Move that out of the way. And there's enough water on this, so I'm just going to do another one and pull it back. So you do get some of it. It's not as detailed and as crisp as when you do it like that. Obviously it's the reverse of that. That's a bit more defined, but you do still get your unperfect bits. And obviously the more water you've used, the lighter the ink gets. This is what I call perfectly imperfect. I wouldn't recommend this if you like everything crisp and clean and perfect, because you're not going to get it done with this technique. I'm just gonna, I might get a bit more off this one. So again, we're just going to roll that along there, back up, and again. It's faded. I think in this heat it's going to dry quite quickly, quite a lot, but then you've still got bits where it's puddled, where the larger pieces of your stencil are. So yeah, that's not gonna take long. But if you like that sort of thing, there's not enough water. Sometimes if it's very wet, you can tilt your card and it will run, and you'll get little runs on it. Depending on the project, yes, I like it, but not always. It does depend on the project that you're doing. Now, that one's totally dry, so move that. Now, to clean your stencil, I just squirt it with water again. And then just use another towel, kitchen roll, and just dry it off like that. Okay, so there's two techniques you can do with it. 1, 2. Once it's dried, I'm going to use this one. Once it's dried, if you put your stencil roughly back in place and get your colour, which one? If you line it up, you can then get a contrasting colour over the top. So you've then got your blue from your reverse print, your yellow in the background, and you will get your little bits of white that haven't come in between. When you're doing that, I tend to I'll go through phases where I'll make quite a lot of backgrounds. Evening Julie. Sometimes you need to save the bits, but yeah, we all have a bit box, and some bit boxes are bigger than others, Nikki, is all I'm going to say on that. This one, how can I? I think the only reason I'm using these stencils tonight is they've been in my craft bag since the last crop that I went to, so that's why. This is another, I guess you could call it, technique that you can use, which is which. If you get a fine liner pen, that's the better one, actually. Yeah. And you can, I've done this approximately the size to go on a card. So you can just, if you hold your stencil in place, if you're not sure that you'll be able to hold it in place, then just use some low tack tape, or even some washi tape that I'm sure most of us have got some, if not a lot, of washi tape. I'm just going to do this really quickly. You'll find that I end up drawing all over the stencil, but that's okay because you can just clean it afterwards. And if you're any good at, do they call it tangling? if you do the Zentangle, you can then use these petals to draw your own shapes in the middle. Out. I'm not going to do all of it because it'll be like watching paint dry. So I'm just going to do this full one here. So you pull that off, you've now got your partial flowers. What you can then do, I can remember which way I had it, is use them to then, you can be quite direct on this. I would wait till your pen's dried, otherwise you'll smudge it everywhere. So I would do this and then do all your ink, all your pen work, and then afterwards maybe an hour or just do a lot to start with. Because that's just smudging the pen everywhere. But what you can then do is go in with your other colour and be quite precise, put the middle of your flowers in. So you will end up with something that will look like that but without all the smudging on it. That can look nice on a card, on a background. You can do it in the corner of a scrapbook layout. You could do, if you really wanted to, you could get your scissors and fussy cut around those, leaving it attached, so cut an edge around them and then stick them to your layouts. If you want to do that, ink them before you cut them out, it's so much easier. That doesn't show the colour very well, it's very warm in here. So you can do it that way. What you could also do is then put that back over it in a different direction and use a very light colour, if there's anything on here, just behind it. What's anything on there? So this is a very light green and I'm not putting any more ink on it. So if you just go on, make sure when you're doing your blending, whether you're using a blending tool or your brush, make sure you go in both ways, because if you go in one way, you're always going to miss one corner of your stencil. So you can do that and do like a ghost figure behind it. The Zentangling I was talking about is, I've never been, I think the word is officially taught, but it is literally just going out and then making the same repeated lines on your project. All the way up or down, or you can do a wavy line and then do one underneath and one on top and just fill in the bits, or you can do circles. It's basically doodling for grown-ups. and then go around your circles, and then go around it again. So that one's going to get caught there, and then just fill in the little bits in between. So you can do that, and you can use, you don't have to stick to a black pen. It can look quite good with coloured pens inside them as well. So just because I've got ink on here and I don't like wasting anything, I'm just going to pop that down. And see, that was still wet, so it's, but because you had the two colours of ink on it, it does blend. So you can get lots of different effects on it. I wouldn't use this technique if you want like a prescriptive pattern when it comes out, because it won't be. It will change every time. Let's just go with this one. Just a few colours on there. Just gonna pop that all down. I have seen people who've done that and then have another bit of card ready. And when they lift it up from there, what's left goes straight down onto another card. Just in case there is that, I don't think there'll be much left on that, but you get a different effect again. You'll just get little bits here and there, which can be nice if you want a muted background. So there's lots of different things that you can do with your stencils. So let me have a quick tidy up, which is not something you'll hear me say very often. Now with some of these stencils, you could, once you've done one, you could move it across and just juggle it so you get them in between. That one, if you just stayed within the middle of there, you could perhaps extend it each way. This one, as you can see, is still dirty. This is a really good one because it is very symmetrical. You could do a section, move it along, line it up, and do another section. And right, let me grab a 12 by 12. So I think I'm just going to use this one. So for here, load up my ink, and I'm just going to do the corner there. And just bring it down a little bit. So you've just got that section there. I would then probably do some over here, because the general rule when you're doing anything, I guess, arty, is the rule of 3. So you do 3 things. It doesn't have to be. It is whatever you are comfortable with and whatever you like. So what you like or what somebody else likes might not be what you like. You might like the same stencil and do different things with it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to move that way. And I'm going to do some down here. And when I've done that, I think I want a bit more on that. What do I want? So I'm going to get another stencil. And oops, this is quite a small stencil, so I'm going to use the green and just quite lightly do a little bit over here. So you can see it, but it's not very in your face, for want of a better word. One thing I have to do, if I start with the stencil straight like that, I have to keep it all straight, because to my eye, it doesn't look right otherwise. But yeah, it is literally personal preference. So just go round in circles, like that. And you can see I've gone a little bit heavier there. It's a lot heavier than before. I'm going to do a bit up here off the top of the page. So you've got a bit there. Now, I've kind of done this with a bit of a scrapbook layout in mind-ish. I've actually got some photos that I had printed out, so make sure they're all right way up. So that was a view from just outside Criccieth. Actually, I don't want that one. So that's the view one way on Llanbedrog Beach, and that's the view the other way. I don't know if you have ever been to Llanbedrog in North Wales. It's really, really pretty. So I've got them, and now I'm thinking, if I pull this down a bit, you're going to miss this stencil in here. So I'm just going to line it up, and because it's a repeating pattern, get it the right way. You will be able to line it up like that. So I'm just going to bring that a little bit lower down, just so that we can see it under the photograph. So there, it's lined up. So now if I put that photograph there, we've still got more of the stenciling around it. Now, one thing I've been doing fairly recently, and again, this is something that I was reminded about when I was on the workshop. I think it's lovely to do workshops with other people, and you might not learn anything new, but it might just be that you're reminded of things that you've done previously and forgotten about. So I'm going to use, because I'm sure we've all got plenty of washi tape, so I'm just going to try and peel it off. As you can tell, it was not a fantastic day when we went there. I'm just going to, if I move that across, pull a bit out, and oops, I just want to tear a little bit down, which it's washi tape, you can do. And then I'm going to line it up at the bottom. And I think I want that coming more down. So the easiest way I find to do it is if you pick it up, just put a little nick in it with your scissors. Hold that piece down, and then you've got a little bit more control over how you tear that down that side. So you've just got a bit of a more of a random edge, and I'm not going to mess with that bit. And then I'm going to use the same tape again, but I'm going to use it in the opposite corner. So I'm just going to line that up along there, and again I'm just going to put a nick in with the scissors, hold it down, and just pull that back like that. And then just trim your tape off at the edge. So because I'm not using patterned paper on this, what I'm going to do is with a pencil very gently mark the corners of your photograph. Okay, then choose one of your other, I'm going to use this one, washi. Oh, that's interesting. So I've first time I've used this washi, and as you can see it's actually got pointed edges on it, which is a completely different look to what I was expecting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to overlap it on the top slightly and just put, and I don't tend to worry about straight edges with washi because you don't need to. And again, just slightly over at the bottom. Like that. And then down the sides. So just overlapping it. Pop that there. Pull it up. And tear it. Now, I don't mind that, but I feel that sticking out a little bit. So just peel it up and pull it off, and that looks too rigid, so again peel it up, pull it off. So now when I stick my photograph down, you don't need patterned paper to go behind it because you've got the washi tape there to do that instead. Now, I'm just curious now, do any of the others have? No, they all look like they've got regular edges. So I think on this one I'm going to use the green to try and pull the green out of the background of the photograph. Exactly the same situation. Pop your corners on in pencil. Move your photograph out of the way. And then just lay it over the top. And along those side edges. And then when you place your photograph on top, it just makes that green pop a little bit more. Now if I was going to put some journaling on here, I've got a piece of card. I would probably cut that down to about 3 by 4 inches. So I would pick either the same or a different washi tape just to I'm popping that there. Move it the other way. Yeah, just check if you've got a direction on your washi, because some do, some don't. And then pop that down. And there you've got your mat for, you can put your journaling on your photo mat like that. So let's get this stuck down. So there you go, you've got one scrapbook page and you've used your stencils on there. If you wanted now, you could then take your second page. I tend to, if I'm doing layouts for scrapbooking, I tend to do 2 layouts that complement each other, just because when they're in an album, it's like a book, you see both pages at once. So if I was doing that, I would probably start off, I'd put some of the green here, I'd put some of the yellow up here, and then maybe here and down here. So do it kind of opposite so that they work together. And again, I might put the photos portrait this time, and a larger journaling block. But like I say, it is all your choice, your pictures, your layouts. Do what you want. Sometimes I'll make a lot of backgrounds and then come back to them, and then they can be used in cards. If you you still send cards, if you make cards. They can be used in your journals. I'm just trying to think if I've got one in here. This is all stenciling. Different stencils, different colours. So you can do it that way. Again, this was stenciling through, but I think I used paint pens with those just because. You can mix your stenciling and then stamp over the top. This is kind of Zentangle. I just used different coloured, but I was just playing with the paint pens to see how well they covered on black card. Again, I tried stenciling on the craft card with ordinary distress inks, and it did show, but not very well. Whereas the distress oxides, because they're more opaque, they actually come up really well on the craft brown card. I've not used it on there. We'll not look at those. Again, this is a big stencil in the middle, and I've just gone off the edges of that stencil, and then bits around the outside, and washi at the top and bottom. So this one, I've used the stencil there. I've then flipped it over and used it at this end, and then I've used the blue bubbly stencil when they've all dried. These are little stickers that I've put on, but that is, I can't remember it, I think it was a label of something. So you can use them and just use things to put it on. But what you could do is then, if you've cut out or even buried your scissors, so if I cut out this flower, so I could now just cut round this flower. It doesn't have to be exact. You're just cutting it with an edge down to there. It's not going to go fantastically because it's got green on it and there's no green on the page, but that now could go in that top corner, and I would probably put a full flower there. So just quickly, if I was going to say, if I was doing this properly, I would normally, if this was what my plan was, I would draw around a lot, ink them up, and then sit in front of the TV and cut them out. But you can get a rough idea how to cut them out. Like say, your petals don't need to be, your flowers aren't perfect. In nature, flowers aren't perfect. So, you know, so you could then put that flower down there and it just brings it in. So once you've done that, you can then add different things to it. I think that's all. Oh, that's my owl. He's not a very good owl, but he's an owl. Blending inks, and these are just some bits of ephemera from a Graphic 45 pack. Just trying to find some more stenciling. That was done with inks, and then that shows you how I've inked the blue circles there and there, and then I flipped it over and used the negative of it here, so you've got that difference. And again, that's been stenciled, and that's the opposite side of the stencil, but I think I've used it on a different colour. That's work in progress. So that, I've used the blue on that side, flipped it over, watered it and used it there, and then just the second image there. That's their stencils where I've just isolated a section of it. If you wanted to do that, these are just messing with pages. That's as far as I got drawing a face, because I can't do any more. So if you're doing something like that and you just wanted a flower in that top corner, I would get some masking tape. No one, I'll get washi tape even. And then I would just cover up little bits like that. This is cheap washi tape. Sounds awful. Cheap washi tape that I don't mind just using little bits of for different things. I think I got, it was something ridiculous like 10 rolls for £2. It's not fantastic, but for this it is really good. So just try and pop that along there. That one up. So now I can get my stencil stuck down. I've covered, except I've missed one, the surrounding open areas. The added benefit is because I've pressed down on my washi tape, it's stuck to the card. So now I can just go round with my ink. I'm going to do it a little bit darker. So again, you just go around, and one thing I find, you don't need to keep reloading your brushes because you've put so much ink on. You can just take it from the stencil. So there you go, and you lift that up. I missed a bit, but you've then got your perfect-ish. So if I put that on again, a bit more tape. And make sure it doesn't come creeping out again. So now you could do this and you can be very specific on your page. So if I wanted to, I'm liking this. I literally just turn the page round and ink it up and spin that round again. Now on this one, what I'm going to show you is, I'm going to pop that there. I'm just going to find the edge of the washi tape and just pop that there. So I'm just going to go in one direction. Which is quite alien to me. But when you lift that up, you'll see you get harsher edges. So if I go back in the other direction now, it kind of evens it out. Putting the tape there means I can flick it up and down and get it in the same place. So that just gives a different effect to it. Once you've done that, you can think, right, okay, I want to do some more, but really, really lightly. So just using the ink that's already on your stencil. And not re-inking. You'll find that there's a lot more than you think there is on these. I think the older your ink pads get, the lighter it will get. You turn that round. Oops. So there you go, you can do that and you can make different backgrounds. Now on that I would perhaps put a very large photograph in the middle of there, and then maybe isolate a couple of other flowers. Do this quickly. Wing it without tape. And do that in between. Yeah, probably easier if you use the washi tape, otherwise you get bits where you don't want bits. But that just goes to show different things you can do with your stencil. And again, so that was covered in mustard seed. I don't want to use that, so spray it with ink. No, spray the ink with water, and you can just pop that down, and obviously the more you do it, the lighter it gets. And where the blue is, you will actually get some green popping through. That's dried up now, so if you do that, put some more on. And if you do a bit and you think, actually I really don't like that, that's too perfect, that's where your photograph goes on the top. So there's no such thing as a mistake or done it wrong. And if you get to that stage, and even when you've put, that wasn't wet, even when you finish, if you actually, I don't like that, put your photos on, you think, nah, still don't like it, pick it up, turn it over, start again. If you get to that stage, I really don't like it, you can cut these flowers out. You can cut bits of it out and use it for layering. There's so much you can do with stencils. This is another one, so I used the green on that. If you turn it over and do that, you will get a very different look. So that, oh, that's where my name was on it, so it's rubbed off. But that, actually, I quite like that, but it does look very different to that. So I think coming from a time of crafting when there wasn't the amount of options that we've got now, I would always buy something if you can use it in 2, preferably 3 different ways. I'm just going to lift this up. Yeah, that's almost dry now. The other thing you can do with stencils is, if you've got stencil paste, you can go through it with a spatula. Do a bit on here. And I got there's my stencil paste. Tricky things getting into stencil paste these days. This is the bit that should have stayed in the lid. But didn't. And then I tend to use my nail or my craft knife and just go around the edge and peel it back. I find if you do it this way, you've always got this silver foil layer. So which one am I going to use? Actually, I'm going to use my flower. I'm going to get one of the stencil knives, palette knives even. And just, so I've got my background, and then here I'm just going to pop the stencil paste through. It back in the jar because you don't waste anything, and you lift it up and you do get a completely different effect. Obviously it will need time to dry, but you get a raised effect on it. So if I turn that round and do one here, you might be able to see it a bit more. Just get a bit more stencil paste. Pop that through there. The other thing I would do, and this is why I've done this last, is it's picked up some of the pink from the other side of the stencil, but it's growing on me. Make sure that you keep the edges of your stencil pot clean, use that. I will go and put that in water now so it doesn't set on there. And that's just a silver stencil paste from Studio Light. It's not mandatory to get it all over your fingers. What you can also do, you can get a clear stencil paste, and if you do that, you can then, if you use it on a clear acrylic block, swipe some of your ink on it, put your clear stencil paste on top of the ink, mix it together, and that will then give you a coloured stencil paste. I haven't got any clear to hand, otherwise I'd show you. But that just gives you different ideas that you can do with stencils. They're a tool that you can use, and I do class them as a tool, for multiple different things. When these have dried, I'll try and put pictures of them in the group tomorrow. So yeah, if there's anything else you want to know, a lot of the things I've done have been either that I've been taught in a class, like I say. Some of the things with you flipping the stencil over and mixing it with water was a reminder that I got during the Vicky Booting class a couple of weeks ago. But at the end of the day, it's card. I would use a decent weight card, just because I mean this is 300 and it's just warping a little bit, but if it's a lighter weight card, it will twist and turn and warp, so it's not always that great. But yeah, have a play. If you don't like it, it's a bit of ink and paper, and if you do like it, you might have come up with a new technique that you can teach us all. So have a wonderful week. If there's any questions you've got, pop me a note in the group, and if I can answer it, I will do. If I can, I'll probably Google it or have a look and see if it works. And if you come up with any new ideas or new techniques, show us in the group. But that would be brilliant to see other people using their stencils more, because they're not cheap, so you might as well get the most out of your tools that you can do. Okay, so it was lovely to speak to you all. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all next week. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.